Hi guys, I am MD Shahajada Imran. Hope you all are doing excellent. Today I will make a video about ODBC connection with Oracle in UFT, in Micro Focus UFT, HP UFT. So the language is VB scripting and the tool is HP QTP or HP UFT or Micro Focus UFT. And the main topic is ODBC connection with Oracle in UFT. So I will do the ODBC connection and retrieve data from Oracle database into the UFT automation script. That is the main topic. So there is a precondition. The precondition is there should have a table in the Oracle database from where I can retrieve data into the automation script. So there is a precondition. So I have that. This is the SQL command line. So this is where I can run the SQL queries or SQL queries to retrieve data. So I can do data manipulation language statements. I can write here all the statements, DML statements, DDL statements, DCL statements. So in here I have connected to the database using this clause, connect clause. So I use this connect clause and then this ID and password and semicolon, so it got connected. Then I wrote a SQL query using select clause. Select star from the table name. The name of the table is lemon and the table showed up here. The table has 3 columns. The first column name is employee ID, second column name is first name, and last column name is last name, and these are the rows. So that is the precondition. So I have mentioned here. Now I will be showing how to do the ODBC connection. So first step is to create DSN in ODBC. That is what I will be showing. So for that I will be clicking here in the start menu, the left bottom corner. Then in the search bar I will write control panel. So it showed up here, control panel. So I'll double click. The control panel page here showed up here, and now it says administrative tools. So I will double click here, and the ODBC and in this page it shows ODBC data sources. So this is where I will be clicking. Now this ODBC data source administrator page showed up. There are 3 data sources. These are data source name. There are 3 sources. So I will add one more. So there will be 4, and the 4th one I will create for Oracle database. So for that I will be clicking on add, and from here I have to choose Oracle. So that is what I have to choose from this list. If I go down, I should see Oracle. So it says ODBC for Oracle. So I will select this one. I will click on finish, and I will give a name. I give name my data source name, my DSN data source name, and I will click on OK. So this one just showed up. So I have created the data source name. So that is the first step I showed hands-on. Now I will write UFT scripts. To write UFT scripts, I need to launch UFT. So I already launched UFT, and I am on the edit view. So this is where I'll be writing the VB script. So the first step to write UFT script is to create parameters for ODBC connection. So for ODBC connection, I need two parameters. One is connection string, other one is SQL query. Some people also call SQL, but it's actually SQL query. So two parameters I need, connection string and SQL query. So connection string, so whatever inside of the double quote, that is one string. That string will be stored in this variable. Now to create this particular connection string for Oracle, I need three parameters and three values. First one is data source name. So from where I will get the data source name? From here in this pop-up window, I just created this data source name. So I will be copying the name, data source name, copy the name from here, copy, paste here, and then semicolon, because I need three parameters and their value all together becomes one string, which will be stored in this variable. And second one is UID, user ID. UID means user ID. User ID I can get from here. The ID I will be using here to connect to the database, the same ID I have to put here. So ID is HR. So I put HR here and semicolon. And PWD means password. And the password I will be using, the password I write here after slash, whatever I will be writing here, that would be the password. So right now in this particular scenario I wrote HR, so that is the password. So HR. So there are three parameters. One parameter, and this is the value. This is the second parameter, and this is the value, and this is the third parameter, this is the value. Three parameters together becomes one parameter. Whatever inside of the double quote will be considered one parameter that will be stored in this variable. And the second one is SQL query, SQL query. So I want to bring everything from this table. The table name is lemon, and I want to bring everything from this table. So SQL query would be select star from lemon. Select star from the table name, and the table name is lemon. Select star from lemon. So I have created the parameters. One is connection string parameter, other one is SQL parameter, and the value I have mentioned here. This is for the connection string, and this is for the SQL query. So now I can show this one that I have showed hands-on. Now the second step is create connection object and record set object. So now I will create connection object. Set con equal to create object, first bracket double quote radio db dot connection, first double quote and first bracket in. So I have created a connection object. Now I will connect con.open, and then the connection string from here. So this two line connect into Oracle database. Now that is the first part. connection object. Now I will do the second part, record set object. So I'll create set record set object, create object file bracket double quote ODBC dot record set double quote and file bracket end record set dot open SQL query. I will be copying from here, copy, comma, and this one paste here. So creating record set object, creating record set object. So in this line I have created a record set object, and the record set object will look like this. So this is the record set object, that it is an invisible object, so we cannot see this object. I created this picture based on the imagination. So this object has 3 columns: employee ID column, first name column, and last name column. The columns are referred with the index number 0, 1, and 2, and it has 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So this is the record set object which is created once the line 10 executed. During runtime, when the line 10 executed, it will create a record set object in the background which is invisible object and which will look like this. The first column will be referred with the index number 0, second column will be referred with the index number 1, and the third column will be referred with the index number 2. So I can also mark this one that I have explained and showed hands-on. Now I will show how to find out row count. How many rows are in the record set object? Finding out how rows are in the record set object. That is what I will be showing now. So row equal to 0. So I have declared a variable called row, and I also initialize the 0 value. This 0 is an integer value. I didn't put double quote, so this is an integer value. So I have done the declaration and initialization at the same time. So I have declared a variable called row, and I have initialized the integer value 0 into this variable using the equal sign. So variable declaration and initialization happened at the same time in line number 13. Now I will use a while loop, do while loop. So do while loop, let me complete the loop first. Record set end of file, end of file. When the record set is not end of file, record set not end of file, row equal to row plus 1, record set dot move next. So when line number 10 executes, during runtime, when the line number 10 executes, it will create a record set object in the background which will look like this, and the first row will be selected by default. So this is how it will look like. The first row is selected, and this is how it will look like. Now I said this variable's value is 0 before while loop. Do while loop. Before the do while loop, the rows value is 0. Now in the beginning, before going to this line number 17, the row count will be 1. When it goes into this loop, row count is 0 plus 1 equal to 1, and then move to the second row of the record set. It will move to the second row of the record set. So this is how the scenario is on line number 17. Now it will do the condition validation. The condition I have put here saying is end of file. That means is this the last line of the record set object? End of file. So it will say, is it the last line of the record set object? No, there are 3 more lines left. Since there are 3 more lines left, it is not the last line. So the loop will go to the second iteration. In the second iteration, row value was 1, so 1 plus 1 will be 2. In the second iteration, row value is 2, and then move to the third row. Move to this row, and then now it will do the validation again, and it will say, is that row is the last line of the record set object? No, there are 2 more left. So it will go to the third iteration. In the third iteration, row value is 2 plus 1 equal to 3, and it will move also to the next row. And then move also to the next row. So that it will continuously doing until it selects the last row. When the last row is selected, when it returns true, saying that yes, last row is selected, so it's not, it becomes false, not last row. When it is saying that it is not, since it is last row selected, it will exit out from this loop, so it will not be going to the loop again. Now let me put a message box. Row count is now if I run it, I should see the row count in the message box, and what I should see, I should see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should see 5. Let's see what happens. The row count is 5. Okay. This is HP run results viewer. Okay. Now I can mark this one that I have showed hands on. Now I will show how to find the column count. How to find the column count. Find out how many columns are in the record set object. equal to RecordSet.fields.count. So I can use this method. Message box column count is so now I commented out this on line number 19. Line number 19. I comment out the line number 19 so that during runtime this line will not be executed. Therefore, there will not be any pop-up or message box for this line. So I'll be clicking on Run button. It should show the column count 3. The column count is 3. I click on OK. So I showed this one hands on. Now I will be moving data from the RecordSet object to the runtime data table. Moving data from RecordSet object into runtime data table. So there are two types of data table: a runtime data table and design time data table. So right now I am scripting, so the data table I will be showing here, or the data table I am seeing here, it's design time data table. This table has two sheets: global sheet and local sheet. Local sheet's name is action 1. And if I click on the run button, the script will be running. During runtime, this table will be runtime data table. So the data I will be moving from this object, and that will be stored in the runtime data table, and the data of the runtime data table can be viewed in the HP run results viewer. This is called HP run. If I click here, I will be able to see the last run results. That window is called HP run results viewer. That is where I can see the runtime data tables data. Now first thing I will be doing is adding this column headers. This is the column header, this is the column header, this is the column header. So adding these column headers into the local data sheet. So I will be adding here, these 3 column headers. For k equal to 0 to call -1, data table dot. So this is a utility object. Data table is a utility object. So I'll be using that utility object to add the column headers here. So data table dot local sheet dot add parameter. Now this method accepts 2 input arguments: the column header name and the first row's value. So the column header name I will be getting from the RecordSet object. From this RecordSet object, this is the field, and the field number 0. So it would be RecordSet.field, and I will be saying k. So in the first iteration, and the k's value will be 0. That refers this column. In the second iteration, the k's value will be 1. The k's value will be 1 in the second iteration. That refers this column. The third iteration, k's value will be 2. That refers this column, this 2. and dot name. The name is for the header, comma, and dummy value. So this for loop will iterate 3 times. It starts with 0, and in the first iteration, when case value is 0, the value 0 will be here, and that will refer this column, and because of this method, the column header's name will be collected. Let's see what happens. I will be running. Before I run, I commented out the line number 24 so that I will not be able to see that message box during runtime. Now I run it. Okay, now if I come here, I don't see it because this is design time data table. That data populated here during runtime. When the script was running, that data reflect there for microsecond, and then when the execution ends, the data goes away. But that data I can see in the HP run results viewer. This is called HP run results viewer. This is where I can see, if I click on the data, I can see this column header names, the 3 column header names, and the first row's value, which I mentioned as dummy value here. Now I will be moving all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows value into here. There will be so for that I have to use a for loop twice. One will be inner for loop, other one will be outer for loop. So for I equal to, this is the outer for loop that will iterate through rows 1, 2 rows. Since there are 5 rows, this outer for loop will iterate through 5 rows. In this particular scenario, RecordSet object's last row is selected because when line number 13 executed, when this script exit out from this loop, in that time the last record was selected. But to move all the data from this object to the runtime data table, I have to select the first row. So that is what I will be doing here. Before going to the for loop, RecordSet.move first. So now on the line number 31, the first row is selected. So this is how it will look like. On the line number 31, the first row is selected. Now this outer for loop will iterate through 5 times, from 1 to 5. Row's value is 5, so it will iterate through 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I also have to select the first row of the data table. This is the data table. So during runtime, the first row will be selected in the first iteration of this outer for loop. So I will be using DataTable dot local sheet dot set current row and I. So in the first iteration, when the i's value is 1, the 1 will be here, and then the first row will be selected. in the second iteration of the outer for loop, when i's value is 2, 2 will be here and the second row will be selected. When the rows i's value is 3, in the third iteration, when this for loop iterates through the third iteration, when the i's value is 3, the 3 will be here and the third row will be selected. Now when in the first iteration, when i's value is 1, 1 comes here, 1 comes here and the first row is selected. When the first row is selected, there will be another for loop. Another for loop that will iterate through these columns. Since there are 3 columns, it will iterate through 3 columns. 0, 2, call, -1. So this inner for loop iterates through 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 3 times it will iterate through. So in the first iteration of the inner for loop, it will store value here. It will store this value 100. It will store 100 here. It will be like 100 here. 100 here. So how it will do? So first I have to refer this cell. To refer this cell, I will be using the DataTable utility object. DataTable first bracket, and the column number. This is the column number. The column number is j plus 1. So the first column is column number 1. In RecordSet object, first column, the index number is 0, but in the DataTable object, first column's index number is 1. So that's what it's referred here. 0 plus 1 equal to 1. Now comma, and since there are 2 sheets, global sheet and local sheet, and I want to enter data in the local sheet, so I will be writing dt local sheet. dt local sheet. dt local sheet. Now this refers this cell. In the first iteration, when j's value is 0, it comes here 1, 0 plus 1 equal to 1, and the sheet number, so that refers this cell. Now I will be do the assignment. So I will be bringing data from the RecordSet object, and this is the RecordSet object. So RecordSet dot fills, and I will be putting j here. J's value is 0 in the first iteration. When the j's value is 0, 0 comes here, and the 0 refers this column, so it will bring value from this column, and the row number is previously selected here. So the row number is selected here, and this is where I refer the column number. So they got this cell, so the 100 bring from here through this and stored here. That means stored here. When the j's value is 2, j's value is 1. In the second iteration, when the j's value is 1, 1 plus 1 equal to 2. That refers this column, this cell, and then j's value is 1. It's 1 here. So 1 here. That refers this column. So Steven will be bring from here and is stored here. In the third iteration, when the j's value is 2, then 2 plus 1 equal to 3, this cell refers, and the value will be bringing from here. So when this iterations, when the script exits out from this inner for loop, before going to this second iteration of the outer for loop, it will select this row. So for that, I have to mention here before going to the second iteration of the outer for loop, I have to mention here RecordSet.move next. Move next. So before going to the second iteration, on this line number 37, it will select the second row of this RecordSet object, and then the script will go to the second iteration. In the second iteration, i's value is 2. I's value is 2. The 2 comes here, and the second row selected. When the second row selected, it will iterate this 3 times, and this 3 value will be entered here. And then once it moves out from this inner for loop, it will execute this line, and it will again move from this line to this line. So this line will be selected. Okay, let me see what happens if I run it. What happens? Delete this. Now I run it. See if the data moves there or not. Execute it. So I go here. This is the last run results. No, it did not. Let me see what happened.